All right, folks, it is that time again. Thank you for tuning in to Awesome Jew, the Adam King Show. We have a great show for you guys today. We have two very good friends of mine on completely different sides of the aisle. And that being said, both of these men being my friends, gentlemen as they were, hate each other on the internet with so much passion and so much rage that tonight we are going to have Bloodsports over ideas, and the intellectual challenge may it begin now, because that's what defines us, America. And here on the right, steel sharpens steel. The left doesn't debate anymore, but here on the right, we hold ourselves accountable to our beliefs. So, time is of the essence. Without getting too much said, I'm going to bring on our guests. We have coming in from Los Angeles, California, we got Shabbos Kestenbaum and Owen Shroyer in the house. Both of these two guys primed for this debate. Nobody's had access to any of the questions. Let me raise my audio up before, because it's my microphone that seems to be weak right now. Check one, check two. There we go. There we go. Okay. Owen Shroyer, Shabbos Kestenbaum, welcome to the Adam King Show. How you guys doing tonight?
Good to be here.
All right, so for the sake of this debate, we're going to go into a series of questions. We're going to start domestically because we're all Americans here. And I think that even though you two guys go head-to-head brutally, like savage monsters against each other on the internet, I think that there's a lot that you guys agree on. So when it comes to domestic policy, we're going to start with America as Americans. We're going to start with Owen first because I have known him longer. We're all great friends here, but Owen and I date back a long time, so he kind of has a little bit of a home court advantage. Not to give Shabbos any less for being, because I know the internet sphere is like the Jews are going to always stick together. So I just want to preface, I'm here to be a fair and balanced moderator. I'm not going to get involved. We have two men who can control themselves. So I want to encourage, I'm going to ask questions, the format of this debate, I'm going to ask questions, and I'm going to let you two go at it. And I hope that I don't have to come in, silence, moderate. We're going to have about 7 to 10 minutes per topic, and then we are going to switch topics. First question. Oh, and by the way, questions were submitted by all sorts of fans of the show across the internet. I want to thank you guys all for participating in the question challenge. A lot of you will have your questions read tonight. First question. I'm going to read the question both to Owen and to Shabbos at the same time. One question, one topic, two different questions, and you guys go head to head. So, first question, identity and America first. To Owen Shroyer, you argue that America first means total isolation from Israel. Do you believe Jewish Americans like Shabbos are a fifth column with primary loyalty to a foreign power, or can they be true patriots in your movement? And to Shabbos, Kestenbaum, Owen Shroyer calls Israel a sovereignty drain on the United States. How do you respond to the growing segment of the right that views your advocacy as a dual loyalty subversion to American interests, starting with you, Owen? Oh, we're missing some audio.
Past.
There we go. Start over. We had your audio skip for a second.
Well, I think we can go back to things that Shabbos has said in the past, but he's not the only person that has indicated such loyalties to Israel. He has said that he believes Jews should always vote in Jewish interests first, and if Jewish interests include protecting the state of Israel at all costs, well then, I don't even think it's a debate that yes, that is not good for an America first foreign policy. And I think we both have lived long enough to see that the American foreign policy in the Middle East has been a disaster. And at the center of influencing that foreign policy is the Israeli lobby and Benjamin Netanyahu himself. And all it's brought is death and destruction. American blood and treasure has been spilled in the country and in the countries in the Middle East, rather. And I think that what younger generations of Americans are realizing, and this is why the debate has become such a hot topic lately, is that yes, even with this administration, for some reason, Israel continues to be a top priority. Maybe with this administration more than nation. Americans are largely Christians, and quite frankly, the interests of Israel don't really bother us. We don't think about Israel. We weren't raised in households that are too concerned about the fate of Israel. But now that Americans are struggling to get by, living paycheck to paycheck, they see all the foreign aid, the foreign influence, the Israeli lobby, all of it. They say, hey, what about us? What about America first? What about America only? And so it seems to be going that direction. And I think that they're very
I got to stop you for 1 second, Owen. I'm sorry. We're having a horrible feedback from the audience on your mic, and people are saying that you're in an echo chamber. Shabbos, really quick, say your ABCs for me. Let me make sure that the audience can hear you too.
Shabbos, Kestenbaum, ABC.
Keep going. Owen, do you have a way to turn down your mic a little bit? No, you're either mute or you're completely out. Yeah, we're getting tons of comments on the internet. The only thing people want to talk about is the mic on Owen is not working. So, Owen, you want to try logging back in? Log out and log back in? Is that possible? I'm sorry to cut you off, but... All right, folks. Well, in the interim, I'm going to just... talk here. We're going to wait for Owen to get back in. His mic seems to not be working at all. It's a good time. A word from our sponsor, a blessing from God. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam she'achol nihiyeh b'dvaro. Got my coffee here. All right. I'm going to put these guys back on, and let's begin again. Owen, can you say something for me?
Mic check 1 2. I love doing audio checks in the middle of a live debate. It's my favorite.
Kind of like just walked on when Whatever. Okay, sorry to interrupt you. So let me ask the question again. To Owen Shroyer, you argue that America first means total isolation from Israel. Do you believe Jewish Americans like Shabbos are a fifth column within the primary loyalty to a foreign power, or can they be true patriots in your movement? Shabbos Kestenbaum, Owen calls Israel a sovereignty drain on the U.S. How do you respond to the growing segment of the right that views your advocacy as a dual loyalty subversion to American interests? There you go, Owen.
All right, how are we doing? Do we have good audio? Can you hear me? Do I need to restate everything I said?
I hear you fine. You're good on my end. Try now.
That's my sound check right there. That's all I can really do. I don't know what else you want me to do here.
Go for it.
We sounding good. The audio airwaves coming up good. Do I need to blame somebody for the technical issues on my end?
I think your Mossad handler, Owen, is.
There it is. You said it. All right. So let's try this again, huh? I think that, and our guest today, Shabbos, has even said so in the past that he believes that Jews should vote in Jewish interests first. And I think it's quite clear that Jewish interests include the state of Israel. And I don't think it's controversy to say that Israel is not America. The vast majority of Americans didn't grow up in a household or a theological belief that Israel is something that they're supposed to care about or be concerned about. Even Christians, it's just not something that we think about. America is a Christian nation. It was raised on Christian values, but you don't even really have to get into that. I think that if you just look at foreign policy in my 36 years on earth, and the vast majority of Americans to agree that treasure, and we see at the heart of the influence of this disastrous foreign policy is Israel, specifically even Netanyahu. So we just say, well, how does this happen? How is it that no matter who gets elected, Congress always votes for more aid and military support for Israel? So we just look around and we say, well, here it is. Here's AIPAC. Here's Marian Adelson. Here's the same factors that buy both sides of Congress to make sure that Israel's best interests are taken care of. And I appreciate people like Shabbos that are honest about it. And they say, yes, I do think about Israel's interest. I do put Jewish interests first. And I think it is inherently obvious that, yes, if those are your first interests, then no, you are not America first.
All right, Shabbos, your turn to rebuttal.
Sure. Well, hi, everyone. First of all, my name isn't Shabbos. It's Shabbos. So that's first off. Second off, it's absolutely true. I'm Jewish first, and I base my politics, I base my religion, I base my relationships based on my Judaism in the same way that Christians should absolutely base their politics, base their religion, base their relationships, base who they're voting for on their Christianity. You know who taught me that? Charlie Kirk. That's why it's called being a Christian conservative and not a conservative Christian. America is a Christian country, and America would be a much better country if more Christians went to church, particularly young people, particularly young white people. America would be a much better country if more Christians learned the New Testament and the New Testament. And America would be a much better country if they learned the New Testament and the Old Testament. And America would be a much better country if more Christians lived a life in accordance with the teachings of Jesus Christ. So I'm not Christian, so I'm therefore not Christian first. But if you are a Christian, you should absolutely look at your Bible, live by your Bible, and then ask yourself, what would my Bible, or how would my Bible want me to vote? In the same way, I look at my Judaism and say, how would my Bible want me to vote? There's a reason I live in America, and that is because America is the greatest country on planet Earth. It's the country I was born into. It's the country I've lived in. It's the country I will die in. There's a reason why I very proudly, you can't see it, but it's in the front. There is a reason I very proudly fly my American flag. There's a reason I very proudly, at my master's graduation, only wore an American flag on top of my graduation gear. There's a reason that in synagogue we pray for the welfare of the United States of America. And in fact, today happens to be International Holocaust Remembrance Day. And so I moderated a panel with 4 Holocaust survivors. And at the end, when I asked them to give a message to the students, none of whom were Jewish, these were at public schools, all of their messages was about appreciating how they are born into the greatest country ever, the United States of America, and to support our leadership, whoever they may be. I'm very proud of the fact that not only did I vote for President Trump, I spoke at the Republican convention, I spoke at Trump rallies, I supported Republican candidates up and down the ticket, because I recognize that illegal immigration and the importation of those who don't share our American values, who don't share the support and love of Western civilization, is one of our greatest threats. And I came to that conclusion as a result of my religious values. Now, I don't think most of the American people care about Israel, which is why I was surprised that you spent so much of your answer talking about Israel. I'm happy to talk about Israel and respond to Israel, but nevertheless, let me state that it is true. Our economy is in terrible financial straits. It is true that young people are being forced to work 2 to 3 jobs. It is true that there is a lack of purpose, there is a lack of meaning, but I am telling you, and this is why Charlie Kirk was such a remarkable human being and was so impactful, not just to me, but of course to millions of young people, that the most conservative, most pro-America argument that you can possibly make is to make something of yourself. Go to church, find a woman, get married, have kids. If you subscribe to an ideology or a philosophy where I will never be able to get ahead in life, I will never find a wife, I will never have a good paying job because something Bill Ackman, or something Israel, or something the Jews, leaving aside the falsity of that belief, which I'm happy to get into if you want, but leaving that aside, that will be an incredibly destructive mindset and mentality to live by. Build something of yourself. My parents came here as legal immigrants 30 years ago. My dad built his own company. I'm a first-generation American, and I'm so proud to be a first-generation American. And that's why in 1790, President George Washington writes a letter to the largest Jewish community in the United States at the time. And he says in this letter, we want you as Jews to come to the United States and practice your religious beliefs, because in his own words, quote, bigotry will be granted no sanction and persecution no assistance, which is why freedom of religion is not in the 10th Amendment or the 25th Amendment. It's the First Amendment. And so long as someone practices their religion in the context of legalities and in the context of what's in the fruitful nature of Western civilization, then absolutely people should come here. They should come here legally, and they should only come here if they subscribe to our values. And that has nothing to do with Israel. It has nothing to do with Jews. It has nothing to do with Barry Weiss. You want to cut the foreign aid? I don't really care. It's less than 1% of our federal budget. Go for it. But the biggest problem we have in the West is the demoralization of young people and podcasters who continuously lie to their audience. And unfortunately, Owen, you are, and I'm happy to get into that later, you are a perfect example of someone who objectively and consistently lies. The idea that I would ever support throwing anti-Semites in jail is A, retarded, B, something I never once said, and C, flies in the face of what I've been saying for the last 3 years, which is hate speech is absolutely free speech. And I condemned the Senate Democrats and Chuck Schumer when they put forth a resolution condemning Nick Fuentes, because I had said you absolutely, as the United States government, cannot dictate or condemn how Americans exercise their free speech rights. So hate speech, you can be as anti-Semitic as you would like. Hate Christians as much as you want. Hate Muslims as much as you want. I don't care. What I do care about, and this, Owen, is the part of my talk that you deliberately did not include. It was a 90-second clip. You only included 30 seconds, so I'll accept your apology later. The part that you did not include was when I said, all I care about is when you commit crimes rather than sending you to a Holocaust museum, which is what has been done in the past, and I'm happy to give you examples of that, you be sent to jail. I don't believe in cashless bail. I don't believe in far-left judges who don't provide punishment, and I don't believe in diversion programs. I believe if you commit crimes, physical actions, the only response should be you be sent to jail. But apparently, Owen, you believe, just like far-left judges, that that's not an appropriate response, and I'd love to hear why.
You know, I got to be honest. I didn't think you'd be such a slimy chameleon. I thought you'd have a little.
Oh, the blood is coming out, guys. Let's go.
I thought you'd have a little more honor and integrity, but instead you start off like that. So that's fine with me. But it's funny you sit here, you talk about the far left. You've been a lifelong Democrat. You've stood for abortion rights, and you're going to sit here and talk about left-right paradigm. And I do think it's kind of odd. How did you get access to the RNC, if you would mind humoring me?
Yeah, happy to answer. So first of all, when you say I've been a lifelong Democrat, I'm 25, so I've only been able to vote in 2 elections. But it's true. Just like Donald Trump, I was a registered Democrat. Just like Donald Trump, I supported abortion. In fact, just like at least half of his cabinet, like Tulsi Gabbard or RFK, we supported a strong strand of liberal ideologies, not just on abortion, but on climate change, on immigration. And then, similar to Tulsi Gabbard, similar to Donald Trump, similar to J.D. Vance, we had a cultural awakening. We decided and we realized that even though Donald Trump, for example, was a Democrat who was on record supporting pro-choice, nevertheless, our country is experiencing not only the demoralization of young people, but the destruction of our values. So in terms of how I got asked to speak at the Republican convention, I filed a lawsuit against Harvard University pertaining to their civil rights violations of American Jewish students on campus. It had nothing to do with speech. It had everything to do with action. So for example, there was an American student at Harvard Business School who was physically assaulted on campus. You could watch the video. It's free on YouTube. There was an American Jewish undergrad who was spat on for wearing his yarmulke on campus. There was a staff member at Harvard who threatened me with a machete. So we decided that a crony institution like Harvard University, which has a $59 billion endowment and is violating the civil rights of American students, should be held accountable in the court of law. And for anyone who's watching, if you're Christian, if you're Jewish, if you're Muslim, if you have institutions that are violating your civil rights, you should absolutely, and I'm happy to connect you with the Department of Justice, you should absolutely hold them accountable and use your rights as an American citizen. So because of my lawsuit against Harvard University, because of my outspokenness against the far left on campus that I had condemned and disavowed, because of my constant critiques of higher education, the Republican convention reached out and asked if I would help out with the Trump campaign, which I absolutely jumped at the opportunity to do. I have repeatedly said, just like Donald Trump, that I was foolish to be a far leftist. I was foolish to be a liberal. I was foolish to be a registered Democrat. I'm proud of the fact that I've registered hundreds of voters to vote for the Republican Party, and I'm campaigning for specific Republicans in the midterm elections. We'd love to have your help. But if you want to use the argument of, well, you used to be on the far left, which is true, I'm not denying that. I just think it's a silly argument considering that most of Trump's cabinet also used to be literal registered Democrats, including President Trump himself.
Oh, and you want to take a response to that one?
Yeah, well, I'll be interested to see what specific Republicans he's talking about, but I think we can probably take a guess. So in other words, you were invited to the RNC as their token victim, and you're going to sit here and act like, oh, there's some big civil rights activism happening on the right wing. Really? For what other groups? White people have been systematically discriminated against for my entire life. They can't get into Ivy League schools. They can't even get CEO positions. They can't get administrative positions. The whole culture, the whole political culture, the whole executive culture has been aimed against white people. Where are the big civil rights movements for whites? I was put in prison for speech. I'm not somebody that campaigned or worked with Joe Biden. I'm not somebody that was a Democrat the first time Trump was on the ballot. And I don't get anything from the RNC. And I think we all know why. There's one litmus test. You're either going to be loyal to Israel or you're not. And if you're not going to check that box, you're not going to be invited to the RNC. So this isn't a civil rights thing. Okay, this is do you get gate kept in or out off of the one issue from the top donor of the Republican Party, the AIPAC donors, and Marion Adelson. So when you make this whole thing like, oh, it's all fair, it's all good, don't worry, everything's fair and equal, it's about civil rights. No, it's not. You can't use that argument anymore. The biggest victim of civil rights abuses in this country in modern history has been white people. And me specifically, I've been put in prison for speech. But there won't be any invites for me because I speak out against foreign aid to Israel and I speak out against military intervention in the Middle East. So I won't be getting the invites. And that's fine. I've been put in prison for my speech. I didn't have my feelings hurt at Harvard like others. I've had plenty of death threats, credible death threats against me, just had guns pointed at my head just last year. No outreach, no concern, no civil rights. The FBI just puts me off. So no, you're not going to be able to use the civil rights argument here. I think we know. I think you're in bed with the big donor class. It's pretty obvious. You've switched sides. You found it more advantageous, maybe more profitable, I don't know, to switch sides at this term in American politics. And who knows, you might switch back tomorrow. But, you mentioned something about Christian values. You think Christians should put Christian values first. And so I do agree with that. And I'd be wondering then, it would be a Christian value. First of all, it would be a Christian value to say, actually our theological beliefs are completely diametrically opposed to one another. We believe Jesus Christ is the Messiah, and the Jews did not, and ultimately had him crucified. But I don't know if that's really a debate that we want to have or that you want to have. But also, as a Christian, I don't think it's a good thing to support the state of Israel that is currently killing people with our tax dollars, innocent women and children. So I would say if Christians really wanted to stand up for Christian beliefs, we would stop supporting what's going on in the Gaza Strip. But guess what? Christians get their arm twisted again. Oh no, you have to support Israel. It's your theological belief. You have to be Zionists. So are Christians allowed to actually have Christian beliefs and say, no, we're not going to support killing innocent women and children in Gaza? No, we don't have to support Israel. And in the New Testament, God's chosen people, the new Israel is the church of Jesus Christ. Are we going to agree with that then?
Okay, so I'll say a couple of things because you made a lot of different points that weren't correlated and certainly weren't substantiated. So first of all, I encourage all the listeners right now, just go on YouTube, type in Shabbos Kestenbaum, my name, and James Hankins. James Hankins was a 40-year professor at Harvard University, and he just left Harvard University because of the wokeism, because of the political indoctrination, and get this, because of the anti-white discrimination. And when you watch our interview that we filmed at PragerU just last week, I asked Professor Hankins about the rampant anti-white discrimination, because Harvard University was not just discriminated against Jewish Americans, they were routinely discriminating against Christian Americans. They were routinely discriminating against Asian Americans. And yes, they were and continuously discriminate against Christian Americans, which is why white Americans, which is why you should all read the lawsuit that we filed against Harvard University. And we specifically said that what is happening to Jewish Americans is not happening in a vacuum. It is also happening to Christians. It's also happening to white people. So again, it seems like you just have a lot of grievances. I'm not entirely clear as to why I'm the target of those grievances, considering that. Hang on. Whoa. Hang on. Relax. I let you speak. You let me speak. That's how we do debate. So relax. I'll let you speak. So in terms of this unsubstantiated claims, you keep mentioning Israel, and I've already conceded, correct, I don't think the United States should give any foreign aid. It's interesting, though, because number one, foreign aid comprises less than 1% of the federal budget. Number two, Israel doesn't even receive the majority of foreign aid. But nevertheless, I agree with you. Let's cut all the foreign aid. But again, what I find so problematic about this conversation is it's in such bad faith, because no one talks about for the fact, just last year, we gave $1.3 billion to Somalia in foreign aid. We gave $800 million to the Palestinians in foreign aid. We gave, I think, about $2 billion to the Nigerians in foreign aid. So no one talks about any of that because no one really cares. They're just obsessed with Israel. And again, I'm still happy to concede the argument that we should cut off all foreign aid. In terms of I didn't support Donald Trump the first time, again, I was 16 years old. So I think you have a lot of grievances, some of them valid, some of them less valid, but to sort of accuse me of not supporting Trump, again, I was in 10th grade in high school. And again, Donald Trump was a registered a registered Democrat before he became a registered Republican. And if you want to make the accusation that you were arrested for free speech, I mean, your arrest record is public. I think it had more to do with January 6th, but I'm happy to talk about that later. But people can Google that for themselves. What I will say is if you want to make the argument that those who are against foreign aid aren't invited to speak at the Republican convention, that is just ludicrous and objectively not true, because Vivek Ramaswamy, for example, who is probably the most outspoken against foreign aid to Israel, not only did he speak at the Republican convention, he was one of the forerunners for the Republican nomination, and he'll probably be the next governor of Ohio. Don Jr. spoke at the Republican convention. I mean, there are countless Republicans. I go to Capitol Hill pretty often, mostly to talk about higher education, but undoubtedly, as you just proved, people always talk about Israel, and there are a lot of Republicans, obviously in addition to Democrats, who aren't happy with foreign aid to Israel. So again, let's cut it off, sure, but let's also not pretend and let's not lie to young people that the reason the economy is so bad is because less than 1% of the expenditure of the federal budget is being allocated to a country in the Middle East. It's just not true. And again, cut it off, but that's not going to solve any of our fundamental problems here at home. And in terms of, again, just the last point, because you randomly threw it out at the end, I'm sort of unclear why. Yet no shit, there are theological differences between Christianity and Judaism. That's why you're Christian and I'm Jewish. That's not really like a right-wing talking point. That's just reality. And again, we are a Christian nation. The founding fathers, except one, were all Christians. So I encourage you, in the same way Charlie Kirk encouraged millions of people, go to church. One of the worst things to happen in this country is that young people have abandoned religious institutions. So absolutely, learn and study the New Testament, live a life in accordance with Jesus Christ. I don't think he's the Messiah, but you do. So great. Believe your religious beliefs. And I think the best part of all of this is American Jews who disagree with you. We're not going to blow you up on subway stations, right? We're not going to commit random knife assaults in Times Square. But guess what? There is one religion that will do all of those things, and that's radical Islam. Radical Islam has and will continue to commit acts of terror against not just white people, against every single American. Forget about 9/11. There have been more than 58,000 radical Islamic terrorist attacks on every single country on planet Earth. Just last New Year's, we had 11 people killed in an ISIS ramming truck in New Orleans. So you can hate the Jews as much as you want. I'm really not here to defend that. But what I will say is, irrespective of how much you hate Jews or how much you hate Israel, don't let that be an excuse. I don't mean you, Owen. I'm just saying in general, if one wants to hate Israel, go for it. But don't let that be an excuse for why you do not build a successful life, have kids, have a family, and build a legacy.
Owen, you want to respond, and then we'll move to another question.
No, I have no contest there.
All right. So in Shabbos, you covered two different questions that I wanted to cover both. The Christian nationalism, but before we go into Christian nationalism, I want to talk about the division inside of the MAGA movement. Owen, you have obviously you were one of the most legendary InfoWars talk show hosts of all time. Having you leave InfoWars, all that took place, the internet largely doesn't know the full scope of things, but we're led to believe that it had something to do about Trump versus anti-Trump. A lot of your podcasts and a lot of people on the right, in the dissident right or the alternative right, however you want to call it, have kind of become questionable about President Trump. And is this because of something in President Trump's policy, or is it because he refused to fully embrace the Jewish influence conspiracies that go around on the right? And to Shabbos Kestenbaum, you stood on the RNC stage of the MAGA movement. Does Owen split from does this largely growing sentiment on the alternative right that moves away from President Trump? How does that make you feel as a Democrat coming into the Republican Party for the first time? Do you see that? Do you think that this will eventually turn on the Republicans? And we'll start with Owen, since Shabbos had the last segment, the end of the last segment.
Well, let me just say, I think that it sounds to me like there's going to be less debate here. It sounds like we probably agree on a lot of political issues. There might be some side issues and some theological.
We're going to go to international policy soon.
Let me just, but I just want to say something here. Okay. So I think that, what we can do, and this is why we have these debates, is to find the common ground and then try to move forward from there. Because I think maybe there's more of that than we anticipate, even in debates like this. But to answer your question,
I started with America because I want us to work together. We're all on the same team here. We're all trying to defeat the tranny crazy lefties that want to enslave our children.
We already beat them, and so that's the problem. So now we get to the issue. We already beat them. We shouldn't even be talking about them anymore. But as far as, whatever you mentioned about the grand Jewish conspiracy, I don't think Trump has, if anything, Trump has made it worse than ever when he goes to Israel and he says, there's Marian Adelson, there's the top donors right there, and they care more about Israel than they do America. I mean, that's not really helping the cause. I don't really think that's helping to quell anti-Semitism here. Now, I will say this, if we want to get back to it, maybe the one point of contention, if you're looking to draw more blood, is when he claims I clipped that statement of his out of context. We can go back to that shortly. Here's my problem, and I predicted this as soon as I saw it happening, and now I notice that everybody else is worried about the midterms. To me, the administration got lost when it, first of all, there were really probably three things that were the pivotal moments of why Trump's approval rating is low, why people are concerned about the midterms now, and let's say the MAGA split, whatever that means, for all intents and purposes, is done. It's over. First, it was Doge not going all the way. The fact that they didn't take Doge to the finish line and save $1 trillion annually and also have massive arrests for fraud, waste, and abuse, that was failure number one. Failure number two was prioritizing bad foreign policy, the Iran strikes specifically, instead of, let's say, deep state arrests. If you could have done a bunch of deep state arrests and then struck Iran, then probably you can get away with it. Now, there might be some nuance and some stuff that was behind those strikes that we don't fully understand, and I anticipate that is the case. I think that Trump probably cut a deal with Iran and said, you're going to let me strike these people to stop a larger war. I don't know, but it doesn't matter, because what the public saw was more Middle East intervention, more regime change war before one deep state arrest. Deep state arrest for a stolen election, Russiagate, Spygate, whatever. And so that rubbed people the wrong way. And then came the Epstein debacle, which has just been a total disaster, a PR disaster beyond our comprehension, I would say, when we elected Trump. Maybe that has a lot to do with Bondi, but you can blame Trump as well. He calls it a hoax. He attacks his voters that won't give it up. Why? Why should we give up on the Epstein thing? I think it's a pretty important deal. So those were the three main issues: the Iran strikes, not taking Doge all the way, and then the Epstein cover-up. Now, the ultimate legacy of Trump, he's in charge of that. But as far as MAGA is concerned, to me, it's dead. I don't know what is left. What even is MAGA anymore? It seems like this is just another administration that is run by the same neocons, the same foreign interests, the same special interests, and the things that the dissident right that got behind Trump and put him over the finish line in 2016, the populist right that I think we all are a part of to some degree. To me, our issues have been mostly ignored, and we haven't gotten any closure.
Shabbos, you want to respond?
Yeah. So again, the only reason I agreed to debate is because, Owen, you took that clip not only out of context, but then you cut off the most important part. I encourage all of the listeners who are listening right now, just go on my Twitter, because I proudly posted the full video myself. At no point in my life have I ever suggested that those who use speech, whether to hate Christians or to hate white people or to hate Jews or to hate Muslims, should be imprisoned. That's A, again, retarded. B, not what the law currently states. And C, not what I believe in. What I was saying is that we have too many far left judges who, rather than providing accountability for people's behavior, provide them an opportunity through diversion programs to simply repent for their sins. And the example I was giving, which again, you deliberately did not include, and this is where I got upset, Owen, and I do think you should apologize, is in 2017, there was a 19th century, it's called the Ashburn Colored School. It's an historic school, I think it's in Virginia. And there were a group of 5 teens, and they vandalized this historic school building. They wrote like white power or like live the KKK or something. The point being, they vandalized the school, they trespassed, they smashed windows, they committed a crime. And the judge told these 5 teenagers, I shit you not, so long as you write an essay on the evils of racism and visit a Holocaust museum, we won't send you to prison. And the point I was making is that is fucking retarded. I don't care if people are anti-Semitic, and I don't care if people are racist. I care if people break the law. And if they break the law, the response should only be you go to prison. That's one of the reasons I became MAGA, because you don't give amnesty to illegal immigrants. You either send them to prison or you deport them. That is the point I was making. And the fact that the video that you clipped deliberately that got millions of views and got me hundreds of death threats over something that A, I didn't say, and B, I don't believe in, that's what really pissed me off. And so again, I am going to badger you on, at least at the end of this debate, you should offer an apology. Now, to get to the substantive point of your question, Adam, if you want to talk about a grand Jewish conspiracy, I think what people are probably referring to is AIPAC. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but I imagine that's probably like the boogeyman these days. So AIPAC is an acronym. The American Israel Public Action Committee, I think, is the acronym. I don't support them. I'm not involved with them. I'm sure all the comments right now are saying I get paid $7,000. Let me be clear. I live in a shitty 1-bedroom apartment in LA. If any organization is offering me $7,000, whether it's the fucking Jews or the Muslims, I will gladly take it, but unfortunately they're not. I don't support AIPAC. Having said that, though, AIPAC is run by Americans. It is for Americans. Its board is exclusively for Americans, and they are using their constitutional rights to lobby their government. Now, if we want to have a debate right now, Owen, Adam, and myself, about the degree at which Americans can lobby their government, the degree by which Americans have access to their members of Congress, I agree with you. Let's have that debate. We should really regulate and restrict the amount of corrupt, really just out and out corruption happening on Capitol Hill every day. However, it's a bizarre fixation because Indian Americans also have a political action committee. It's called UNISPAC. Armenian Americans have ENCA. Greek Americans have HALC. Ukrainian Americans have the UCCA. These are all Americans lobbying for countries that they believe support American interests. You don't have to like them. You don't have to agree with them. But to say there's a Jewish conspiracy, again, the problem I have with the corners of the internet that say these things is I'm happy to be convinced that I'm wrong, but you have to substantiate the claim. So, for example, last year alone, and everyone can fact check me, this is on Open Secrets primarily. Last year, AIPAC spent $100 million, okay, which is less than the Chamber of Commerce. It's less than the National Real Estate Association, but it's still a lot of money. I'll give you that. However, if we want to talk about foreign influence and foreign interference, how come none of us are bothered by the fact that the Chinese Communist Party spent close to $500 million on foreign lobbying last year? How come no one is getting pissed off that Japan spent $400 million last year, or Big Pharma spent $400 million last year, or Saudi Arabia spent $300 million last year, or Qatar spent $250 million last year? I was on Fox News today, just a couple of hours ago, and we spoke about how there are so many Chinese Communist parties at Harvard Kennedy School, which is the School of Government and Public Policy, that the Chinese Communist Party literally calls Harvard Kennedy School, quote, the party school. So is there foreign interference in our elections? 100%. But the obsessive nature or the obsessive desire we have against Israel, which I agree with you, cut the aid, at the exclusion of every other country, clearly demonstrates to me that this is not an accusation or an argument being made in good faith. Because if we truly cared about foreign interference, we would care about the countries that are much more adversarial, that are much larger, and that are spending way, way, way more money than Israel currently is. And with this, Owen, I'll ask you a question. When people talk about the United States government is controlled by Israel, or the Jewish conspiracy theory, I can talk about how in 1948, Harry Truman prevented the Israelis from totally destroying the Egyptian army. I can talk about literally one president after the next who restricted the military operations of the state of Israel, literally from 1948 to the present day. But the one question that no one who hates Israel has ever been able to answer is, if Israel controls the United States government, then please, Owen, I'm asking you, please clearly explain to me, how is it that barely 10 years ago, the JCPOA was passed?
Well, I don't think that the examples you're providing here are not equal, and here's why. There has only been one person that has showed up to the U.S. Congress for, I think, 40 years now, who has been telling the American people and Congress that every neighboring country and every opposition leader in the Middle East has weapons of mass destruction, and that person is Netanyahu. And because of his intelligence, that all ended up being false, we sent men and women to die and trillions of dollars into the Middle East because of lies, in my opinion, lies that were told us by Netanyahu. So there is no other country. You can talk about money, and it sounds like we all agree on the money issue, so I don't think there's any contention there. But as far as military intervention and blood and treasure in foreign lands is concerned, that's why people have a problem with AIPAC. That's why people have a problem with Netanyahu, because of all of these different countries, there's only one that sends us to war on their behalf, and that is Israel. And so there's the big difference there. So we all agree the foreign aid, there's too much money going everywhere. I don't think anybody contests that. But we always seem to take military action on behalf of one state, one country in the Middle East, and that is Israel. And if there's anything that both sides of Congress agree on, it's that every time they vote in favor of Israel. And AIPAC brags. AIPAC brags about how they own both sides of Congress. So, no, all of these things are not equal. AIPAC has way more influence and power, especially when it comes to foreign policy, over any other country. And I don't think it helps that we see laws passed in the United States of America, which you might disagree with these laws, but they get passed, like anti-BDS bills, protecting Americans or Jews from anti-Semitism. This stuff does happen. These laws are on the books. They've been proposed multiple times. Bills have been proposed. This stuff does happen. So no, not all foreign aid and not all foreign influence is equal. It's very clear that Israel gets prioritized in that regard. And I don't even think it's close. And if you want to argue that these things are equal, then, people are just going to say, well, that's because you got $7,000.
Okay.
So
well,
before
again, anyone wants to give me $7,000. You heard it here. No, hang on. Let me.
I know. I'm going to let you respond. I just want to
let me make a point
because time is of the essence. Let's try to condense.
Okay, I need to make this point.
Both of you guys as much as we can. Shabbos, please respond.
Okay. You're totally pivoting. I'm happy to talk about Bibi. A, he has not been prime minister for 40 years. B, he was not prime minister during the Iraq war. There was Ariel Sharon. Ariel Sharon met with George Bush publicly and said, don't invade Iraq. It's a terrible idea. So you can blame Bibi, but he wasn't the prime minister. But three,
I said he lobbied Congress. That's a different statement. Okay.
Sure.
So that's what
Sure. Lots of people lobbied Congress, including the British, including the French, including the Australians. So you can point that Bibi as an individual lobbied Congress, but why would that matter if the prime minister of the country of Israel, Ariel Sharon, was lobbying against the war in Iraq? But that's not the point.
Yeah, why did that?
Hang on. The point is this, because you didn't answer my question. You keep saying that Israel controls the U.S. government, that AIPAC brags about how much control they have. If that's true, please just very clearly answer this question to me. If that's true, that Israel controls the United States government, then please explain how the JCPOA was passed 10 years ago.
No. I don't care about your straw man little point that you want to put out here. I don't care. I look at the results. Foreign policy has been influenced by Israel. Both sides of Congress are influenced by Israel. Now you have America First candidates popping up for congressional races, and here comes AIPAC to try to unseat them like Thomas Massey. So you can put your little shiny ball out there and play a gotcha thing. I'm not playing that game. Let's stop playing. Everybody knows Israel has the most influence over foreign policy in this country. Everybody knows AIPAC is the most powerful lobbying firm in this country. And again, you can try to make counterpoint. I'm not going to have this debate. The debate, it's so obvious, okay? There is no debate. The debate is concluded. Trump has shown us more than any other president that is the case.
Okay, you can't say the debate has concluded when you voluntarily went on a debate to debate these things. This is not a gotcha question. This is a legitimate question. If you want to make the claim that Israel controls the U.S. government, then you have to be able to substantiate and respond to the question of how is it that AIPAC spent tens of millions of dollars against the JCPOA? How is it that Bibi Netanyahu spoke to Congress and said, vote against the JCPOA? How is it that the majority of the American Jewish populace said to their members of Congress, don't support the JCPOA? How is it that every single major American Jewish organization said, don't support the JCPOA, and then it still passed? It's not a gotcha question. I'm genuinely trying to understand your point. How can you say that Israel controls the U.S. government when the most consequential, the most dangerous policy ever exhibited against Israel in the last 30 years was allowed to pass by the United States government? Explain it to me. It's not gotcha. I'm genuinely trying to understand how you can reconcile the alleged support or control Israel has, but then the fact that the JCPOA was passed.
Owen?
Well, maybe that's because they finally needed an extra piece of ammunition to claim that Iran had nuclear weapons, which they still have not been able to prove. They continue to claim it. They can't prove it. First, we destroyed their nuclear arsenal. Now they're building it back up again. So maybe it was just an excuse to say, see, Iran has nukes. But why is it that Israel doesn't have to show their nukes? Why is it that Israel stops foreign agencies from going in there and observing their nuclear facilities? Why does Israel get to have nukes, but Iran doesn't? So again, it's like you can pick one issue here and say, oh, this is the gotcha moment, but it's simply not the gotcha moment. Iran doesn't have nukes. Bibi's been telling us they're going to have nukes for 40 years. They still don't have nukes. They just want regime change. They want somebody in there that's friendly to Israel. That's what it's all about.
Again, you keep going back to Israel and Iran. And sure, Israel should disclose their nuclear weapons. Great. And Iran shouldn't have a nuclear weapon. I'm just trying to understand your answer, though.
A nuclear weapon and Iran doesn't. Like, what is that?
Sure. Great, agreed with you, but you're pivoting again. I want to get a clear response because I want to be convinced, but you're not doing a good job at convincing me and convincing the 5,000 people watching. I just want to understand. The Iranian nuclear deal was not some, piece of legislation. This was the most consequential piece of legislation against the state of Israel of the last 20, arguably 50 years, which is why, again, Bibi Netanyahu, not only did he speak in front of a full session of Congress, he actually came to a full session of Congress twice. Tens of millions of dollars were spent. And so I'm just trying to understand, if Israel was so against the Iranian nuclear deal, how was it passed? And your answer, I totally don't understand. Your answer was, well, it was passed to demonstrate that Iran has nuclear weapons. That is literally the opposite of what the Iranian nuclear deal did. So again, you have to substantiate your argument. Like, you have to convince people why you are right. And simply pivoting to Iran or talking about Israel, that's not a very good answer. So just one last time, if you can't answer, I'll move on. Why is it, if Israel and AIPAC controls the U.S. government, how is it that so many consequential pieces of legislation, like the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, was able to pass? Something that unfroze $150 billion in Iranian frozen assets. Something that, even if Iran followed it, would give them a nuclear weapon after the deal expired in 10 years. Something that Israel put all of their lobbyists, all of their FARA agents in DC to lobby against. How could it have possibly have been passed if what you're saying is true, that they just control so much of the US government?
Wow. So I guess we're shocked that Israel finally took one L in D.C. for the first time ever? Is that what we're saying? Wow. Israel took one loss in the history of foreign policy discussions in D.C. Wow. Okay. I guess you proved it.
Okay, fine. So I'm glad you said that, oh, this is the one L that Israel took, because, again, this isn't just like one L. This is the most
You're insinuating this, not me. You're the one that brought this up. You're the one insinuating this is your gotcha moment. See, Israel doesn't control Congress.
Okay, so again, first of all, you have to let me make the point. Don't interrupt. Second of all, it's not my gotcha moment. It's a legitimate question. This is what happens during debates. One side raises an argument, and then the other side has to prove why they're right or they're wrong. This is what debating looks like. And the third point is, again, this is not some piece of legislation. This is a consequential piece of legislation that Israel believes. Okay,
it's so consequential. Look out.
Again, if you want to have a debate, I'm happy to have a debate. But if you want to look like a retard, then I'm happy to log off. So just let me know. But if you want to make the argument that this is just some piece of legislation, Israel kept saying, no, this isn't a piece of legislation. This is something that will provide our arch nemesis, Iran, with a nuclear weapon. But I'm glad that you said,
I don't care.
Hang on. Well, you obviously do care, because we started this debate.
You brought this up, not me. Okay, Iran is not my problem and shouldn't be my problem. It's Israel's problem. And why has it been so consequential? Ooh.
Okay, great. I'm glad you had your little soundbite there. You brought this up by talking about Israel. I didn't mention Israel. You did. You talked about the Jewish supremacy. You talked about Israel has control of the U.S. government. You said AIPAC controls our politicians. And I'm trying to ask a simple question as to how that is true. And your response so far has been to say, well, how come Iran can't have nuclear weapons, but Israel does? Which, okay, sure, I agree. Neither of them should have, but that doesn't respond to my question. And your second point has been to make like weird noises and like weird gestures. So I'm going to ask it one last time. You just said that, wow, Israel had one L in its entirety of its existence. But I already told you why that isn't even true. Because President Truman in 1948 told the Israelis, you cannot wipe out the Egyptian military. We could talk about President Reagan, who refused to greenlight an operation that Israel wanted to conduct against the Jordanians. We could talk about all the way to George Bush Sr., who refused to allow the Israelis to have a nuclear strike against Iraq. So if you keep saying Israel only had one L and it was the Iranian nuclear deal, which again, it's not just one L, it's the most consequential piece of legislation, but then you also ignore the fact that every single American president since the foundation of the state of Israel have severely curtailed Israel's both domestic and foreign policy, then objectively what you're saying is not true. Can you not concede that?
No, actually, I actually really agree with the point you're making. This is actually very important, and I think President Trump just did the same thing. So essentially, how many U.S. presidents? 5 U.S. presidents have had to stop Israel from starting World War III, and Trump just did it again in Iran. So that's basically what it is. Israel continues to threaten to start World War III, nuke their neighbor, bomb their neighbor, whatever, and the U.S. president has to step in and say, hey, you know what happens if you lose our support? Let's not do that. And I think it just happened again with Trump. I think Trump called Iran. He said, look, they're going to bomb you. They might even nuke you. So you got to let me come in, run this operation, say that we destroyed your nuclear arsenal so we can get Israel off your back and stop threatening World War III. So I think that that's actually an amazing thing you just admitted. And again, this is why we need to decouple with Israel and let them deal with their own business. It sounds like, yeah, Israel keeps trying to start World War III, and U.S. presidents have to step in and say, please don't. And so far, we've been successful. Let's hope it continues.
So hang on, Adam, let me just make one final point, then we'll move on. You keep talking about World War III. So the 1948 War of Independence was fought regardless of American support. That did not start World War III. The 1967 Six-Day War was fought irrespective of American support of Israel. That did not start World War III. The 1973 Yom Kippur War was fought irrespective of American support. That did not start World War III. Both the first Lebanon War and the second Lebanon War, although in the second Lebanon War there was American support, Israel did it without the support of the United States. And guess what? It did not start World War III. President Trump had a targeted nuclear precision strike against the Iranian nuclear sites. And contrary to those on the very, very far right, I wouldn't even say conservative because they're not, said that would start World War III, and it didn't. So there's a difference between World War III and then war. And thank God, Israel, like the United States, are one of the very few countries left who are willing to kill Islamists. I'm very proud of the fact that Israel has a strong track record of killing Islamists and goat fuckers. That makes me very proud. That warms my heart. And they will continue to do that. And you seem to be making the suggestion that America had to stop Israel from engaging in wars that would have started World War III, but Israel responded to those wars anyway, and it didn't start World War III. So again, you can make your claims. The problem with your claims, though, is you're not substantiating any of them either through facts, data, or history.
Oh, if you want to respond, I'll let you. But then we're going to go to another question. If you.
No, I'm done with this hamster wheel. We can go on.
Okay, so
There
let's
you
move
go.
on.
There you go.
Let's move on to foreign policy because this is something super hot right now. We're in day 28, I believe, of this Iranian revolution. Over 50,000 people have been killed in the Iranian revolution fighting against the government. Over the last 2 years in Israel, we saw that the Israeli government in Gaza, they were called genociders. The total death toll was 58,000. I want to start with Owen. Owen, do you consider Iran a genocide? And if it is a genocide, what do you think that the United States' response should be?
So I'm trying to figure this out exactly. What is a genocide?
Well, go for it. What do you think?
No, I mean you're saying Iran is committing a genocide against its own people? Is that what we're saying?
That's the question, yeah. Do you believe that Iran is committing a genocide against its own people?
I don't know. I'm not sure. I don't trust any news that comes out of Iran. I don't really trust any news that comes out of the Middle East. There's been way more evidence of a genocide in Gaza and Palestine than there has been in Iran. What I do find funny is the propaganda that gets aimed at the American people from the region to try to get us to support this regime change in Iran. And I suspect that these death numbers are just the same. If Iran really killed 20,000 or 50,000 people, I think Trump would intervene. And I think the fact he hasn't tells me that that's probably not true. But I do find it funny. They say, oh, well, the poor oppressed women. And then they show you these social media stars that they claim the Iranian regime has killed. And yet they're women that ride around, no headdresses. They wear makeup. They seem to be perfectly free. We have videos of malls and everything. So it doesn't seem like there's much truth coming out of that to get us to support that regime change in Iran, which, gee, I wonder where that influence comes from. Wouldn't be able to figure that one out. It's a mystery, I suppose. So I don't know. I would say if we're going to call what happens in Iran a genocide, then certainly we have to accept what happened in Gaza is a genocide. And that's not even rhetoric that I use, quite frankly. I would say, okay, call it a war. These people have been fighting wars for as long as I've been alive. I want nothing to do with it. But I don't know. I don't trust those numbers. I don't trust anything coming out of that region. And again, this is why I want nothing to do with it. I want no involvement at all.
So, Owen, for the record, you would say that Gaza was not a genocide and Iran is also not a genocide.
I don't use that word to describe either one of those situations. But if we have to sit here and look at it and label it, I would say there's more evidence that that's what happened in Gaza. Yeah.
Shabbos, you want to respond?
Yeah, I mean, again, the problem with having this debate is we have to substantiate and provide evidence for our claims. So, for example, you were sort of insinuating or otherwise implying, and you can correct me if I'm getting the wrong impression here, you were otherwise implying that people are talking about oppressed women, but then you look at social media and then they don't look very oppressed and they're uncovering their hair and like, what's really going on? Because I don't trust anything coming from the Middle East. I mean, do you know the name Masha Amini? Does that mean anything to you?
Nope.
Okay, so I figured. So in September of 2022, Masha Amini, she was 21 or 22 years old, I don't remember. Her hair was uncovered. She's an Iranian of Kurd descent, I believe, actually. She was arrested by what's called the Morality Police, which is the IRGC's component of the IRGC's component of enforcing Sharia law. And she was killed in captivity for uncovering her hair. It sparked the Woman Life Freedom movement, which up until this point was the largest anti-Iranian Islamic regime protest in Iranians' history. So again, it's very difficult to take a political commentator seriously if they're unfamiliar with one of the largest democratic regime changes or democratic movements against the Islamic regime really in its history. So the Islamic Republic of Iran, the IRGC, are obviously a terrorist group. They were behind the Beirut bombing that killed 284 U.S. Marines. I'm not sure why that's particularly funny. Iran is also behind the bombing of our embassy. Iran funds proxies like Hezbollah, like Hamas, like the Houthis. So in the same vein that in the mid 1700s during the Federal Papers,
none of these should be my problem. None of these should be my problem, and none of these would be my problem if I wasn't connected at the hip to Israel.
Right. So if you had the intellectual capability to listen to for more than 1 minute, I'm about to explain to it. So again, we can debate, but you have to let me make the point. Again, you're like double my age. Like, stop doing this whole back and forth. It's stupid. So in the Federalist Papers, we have our founding fathers who, more than any other concept, they talk about the concept of common defense. And in the Federalist Papers, in the concept of common defense, they talk about the importance of America allying themselves with foreign nations and foreign actors who will defend American interests, which is why, for example, again, Owen, you're a political commentator. I assume you know the very first war the United States fought as a country, correct?
Do you want to talk about the founding fathers being against foreign entanglements?
No, I don't. No, I don't. I just want you. Do you know what the first war the United States fought was? So
you're going to talk about what, the Barbary Pirates?
Barbary Wars, very good. So the Barbary Wars was when U.S. merchants and U.S. sailors were being abducted, kidnapped, and otherwise sold into slavery by Islamists, primarily off the coast of Libya. These were white Christians, and in particular, they were being kidnapped because they were white Christians. And President Jefferson, he meets with the ambassador from Tripoli, and he asks them. There's a great Christopher Hitchens interview on Bill Maher show from a couple of years ago where he succinctly narrates this as well. And he asks them, he says, we have no foreign entanglements with you. We have nothing against the Barbary nations. We have nothing against Libya. Why are you kidnapping white Christian U.S. sailors, white Christian U.S. merchants? And he's told by the ambassador quite succinctly that you are the infidel. And by virtue of being the infidel, the Quran tells us that we have an obligation to subjugate the infidel under our whim. And President Jefferson writes a letter. He writes a letter to Adams saying that this clearly impressed upon him the need to have a strong defense. The reason we have a United States Navy today, it was decommissioned in 1785. You can fact check me on the exact year, but it was recommissioned in the late 1790s in order to fight Islamist pirates off the coast of Libya primarily. And so the founding fathers understood the importance of having nations that protect American interests, whether they be abroad or whether they be at home. So the idea, and it's really a pseudo-intellectual conspiratorial way of thinking that I've really only seen be propped up on the Twitterverse, that America doesn't need allies, is as ludicrous as it is dangerous. And oftentimes that is getting bogged down in semantics. So they'll talk about foreign entanglements. They'll talk about nation building here at home. And of course, it's important to nation build here at home, which is why 95% of the federal budget refers to programs happening in the continental United States. At the same time, though, we recognize that the preservation of Western hegemony and the dominance of the American military, both here and abroad, protects Americans. So the fact that we can pay Ukraine, for example, a tenth of what we pay on our military budget to kill Russian communists, that is a huge win. The fact that we pay Taiwan, again, barely a fraction of what we're paying on a military budget to kill, hopefully, Chinese communists so we can have our semiconductors and we can power our electronics here in the United States, that is a win. The fact that we give, again, a fraction of our military budget to Israel so they can kill goat fuckers in the Middle East, that is a huge win. So I support any country that supports American interests abroad. The founding fathers knew this from the get-go. And again, the only people who disagree are being propped up on Twitter in the last few years who believe that America first is America alone. And the person who recognizes that that is not true is President Donald Trump, who has one of the greatest not only foreign policy achievements of my lifetime, but also domestic policy achievements of my lifetime as well, having negative net migration, having tariffs that have produced billions of dollars in revenue, ensuring that we produce patriotic curriculum into our school system. None of this would be possible without an engaged populace. So again, let's cut the foreign aid. I'm aboard. That will not.
There, hello. Are we losing a little bit of choppiness? But I want to give you guys one more question. And then you guys can take it from there. One more question, then we'll follow up with closing statements. I want to talk about, because we're all sitting here talking about America. Is America an international power? Is it a domestic power? I think really that's the only place where you guys truly disagree, is the purpose of America in the world. I think Owen tends to take a more isolationist approach to America, whereas Shabbos is kind of like looking at America as like some empire. Maybe we could go down this path, and then I want to ask. I want to go down this path. I want to ask one yes or no question, and then I'm going to leave you guys for your closing.
Well, let me respond to that real.
for it.
Can I respond to that last one quickly?
Absolutely.
I would say, of course, people out we shouldn't know. I think, again, the true colors here, of Israel or foreign countries close to my heart. Don't care. Only America. That's all I care about. And this isolationist, that was the exact same word to a T that people like Ben Shapiro, to get us to go into the Middle East. They said anybody who doesn't support is an isolationist. And it's funny because I've heard you actually say the exact same things that Ben Shapiro has said before, like you applaud and laud what's going on in the Gaza Strip. So I don't know if you guys are getting the same talking points or maybe that's just a coincidence. You consider what happened in Ukraine a win for the American people? That's just unreal to me. The money laundering, the weapons laundering, Ukraine is going to lose the war anyway. That's been a complete loss for the United States in Ukraine. So I don't know. And of course, here's the part where it's, you need to hate Muslims. They're all bad and all this yada, yada, yada. Well, fine. Okay, let's have closed borders. Let's stop causing refugees by having wars in the Middle East that end up bringing them here. Let's stop allying with Israel that they hate so that they want to come here and blow us up because they can't get them to, go after them in Israel. So, I just think it's, this is where the true colors show. If you have loyalty to Israel, then this is where the debate goes. I don't. I have no loyalty to Israel. I have no care to Israel. You want to talk about, are they an ally? Are they not? There's plenty of debate about that. You can go back to the USS Liberty. You can go back to all the lies that they tell us to get involved in their interest. So I want nothing to do with it. And I thought you didn't either, but here it is. It's like, oh no, we do need something to do with it. If you're truly America first, if you truly only care about America as your home country, then yeah, you'd be an isolationist too.
So Shabbos, do you want to respond to the Ukraine topic?
Sure, yeah, and hopefully you can hear me. I think the audio was on my end, so I joined back in on my phone. So when I see 1 million dead Russian soldiers, that is a total American victory. The idea that Ukraine is going to lose the war, well...
No, you're disgusting. You celebrate dead people? That's just gross. That's why you liked abortion. It's just gross. That's just detestable.
Yeah, okay, thanks. I'm thrilled when I see dead... Okay, relax, buddy. I'm thrilled when I see dead Russian soldiers who invaded a sovereign country. I'm thrilled when I see dead Chinese Communist Party officials. I'm thrilled when I see dead Nazis. I'm thrilled when I see dead Islamists, because I, just like every single conservative, just like every single founding father...
About that, he'll see you dead and he'll call you any one of those things and he'll be thrilled that you're dead. There it is. The true colors coming out.
Again, I'm happy to have like a normal conversation, but if you're going to interrupt like a retard, then there's no point in having a debate, and I would encourage you to log off. I recognize the same thing that our founding fathers recognized. I recognize the same thing that every single conservative and Republican president has recognized, which is there's evil in this world, and there's only one way to deal with evil, and that is with the eradication of evil. So if you're an Islamist who flies planes in the Twin Towers, the only response to that is murder, is killing them so they cannot kill you.
9/11 narrative? Do you believe the official 9/11 narrative?
Adam, can we mute him? Otherwise, I'm logging off. It's very simple. Make a choice. All right, I'm out.
Address the Ukraine. Wow. Okay. So, wow. Okay. This was
that was fun, Adam. Great job
on many different levels, but
great job, Adam. You once again did a great job tonight. I give you credit.
Dang. That was almost like a buzzer beater.
That was he had a good connection on his phone. That was too bad.
Yeah. Okay. Wow. I really wanted to cover a couple more topics. But
no, you should take a victory lap. You are the awesome Jew. Take a victory lap. Take a victory lap. Do one with me right here. Yeah. Come on. There you go.
Adam King, everybody. No, that was a good debate. It got hot. You guys have been hot on the internet against each other for a long time. It's about time you guys had some face-to-face. I hope to God that to both you and to Shabbos, who I'm friends with both of you guys, that I remained as impartial as possible.
I give you credit. I'm
very open with my beliefs, and I didn't, there was a couple times on both your sides I wanted to jump in and say.
I'm sure. Well, look, people always want to say, oh, my gosh, you can't let the awesome Jew moderate. You've always been fair. You've always been above fair. You've always been a great moderator. So I always gave you credit. That's why, actually, whenever somebody comes to me with debates, you're actually the first person I go to, because you've always been fair as far as these debate platforms are concerned. And I think that you were fair tonight as well.
I really wanted to go down a whole bunch of topics that I don't even think that we got to cover. There was so many, and unfortunately we only had an hour segment, and Shabbos kind of used that to hop off. He only had an hour. We were going to try.
Let me just say this. I'll just say this too. Whatever, he chose to leave. I don't know. Maybe he had to leave and he wanted to do it that way. Maybe he really didn't.
I gotta admit, it was a little of a dramatic exit. I wanted to see some.
It was a little hasty. I'll just say this. You've hosted that. I get along with everybody. I hope that this is the case with Shabbos. I don't know. Or Shabbos. I'm sorry. I'm not mispronouncing your name intentionally. I hope that, hey, we can have heated debates, man. But I hope at the end of the day that we can break bread and still at least have somewhat of a amicable existence. I mean, I had to share space with Destiny after our debate. We all went out to dinner and we were able to make it friendly enough. So, that just comes with
the debate was cold, man. When you walked out there and offered your hand and he nearly spit in it, that was cold. That was so cold.
Oh, Adam, man, the things we've seen, huh?
It's been a long ride, man. It's definitely been a long ride. We've been through some shit. I saw that guy Ahmed Suleiman on a podcast the other night doing the debates, and I was just remembering that time he chickened out on your podcast or your show back when you were on InfoWars. But God, the debate segment is really what I think makes our side strong. We don't see eye to eye on things, but on everything. But we are open to having these conversations on the right and the left. They just shut down. I have a guest staying at my house right now, and he had a friend come over to visit. He's a holy rabbi friend of mine, and he had one of his, and this person was like so unbelievably rude to me. As soon as he found out he was in my house. And he saw the posters on the wall and the Trump and the liberalism came out. And it was like he was inside of my house being so rude. And I was thinking to myself, and as soon as I tried to just say, hey, I actually like ICE. I think ICE is doing a good job. It was like the full-blown meltdown. Nobody's allowed to have a dissenting opinion. And he was just like out the door. And before he left, I made sure to kick him out just to like be like ICE a little bit, and just like get the fuck out of here.
Hit him with a pepper spray.
But on the other side, they don't talk at all, man. They don't talk at all. And, it's better. A debate like this.
Here's the problem. I think that this is the problem. And this is why it's tough, but I'm considering kind of just branching off, doing some other extracurriculars, because it's like, look, whenever you get into the political arena, obviously it's going to be hot, it's going to be contentious, and you're going to be clashing. And so you kind of get this idea that you're enemies when you're really not. You're just having a political debate. You're having a political disagreement. And then there's probably plenty of other things that you disagree with. And look, at the bottom line, it's like this. All three of us here in this conversation have very little influence over the larger picture, right? I mean, it's like we're all fighting for our own lives here. We're all fighting for our own ground here. We all want the same thing. We just want to have a life, be free from government tyranny, and be able to prosper and have the opportunity for success without foreign intervention. I don't mean that by a country. I just mean anything that's not us and our circle invited in. So I think we all want the same thing. But, you have political debates. It's your only opportunity to talk with somebody or meet somebody. And, that's how it goes.
I was really wanting to touch on Minnesota and the prospect of civil war in our country. And
I don't think so. I don't think people really care that much, to be honest.
I got friends in Minnesota that have been packing their car and leaving. They see all this, and it's negative 12 degrees also. And I'm sitting here in sunny Southern California, 73 degrees, and it's like the freezing cold of winter. But with the ICE killings and all that stuff, and I kind of wanted to bring down that up because I think you two both agree on that on the mass deportations issue, and I think that's an important part that us on the right have to unify around if we want to see that happen, or else these purple-haired trannies are just going to get the mic back and start cussing.
No, I do think, listening, just listening to that, that we probably have more in common politically than we have differences. But the parts that we have different, we get hot and bothered about, and that's to be anticipated. Maybe there's some misunderstanding on these things. But yeah, I mean, politically, we probably want to move the ball in the same direction. The only difference is, I think that this is where it comes out, and that's why these things end up being centered around foreign policy. Is the only difference is we want the only influence on that ball to be right here in the United States, and some people think there needs to be other influence on that ball moving forward.
Yeah, as we move into 2026, like I just want absolute victory for America. And
I am curious. I have to ask you. Can I ask you a question here before we sign off?
absolutely.
Are you going to be, I mean, Netanyahu, he delayed another trial today. I don't know if you saw that. He was supposed to be in court. They delayed the trial again. When is Adam King's candidacy for prime minister? When are we going to be publicly announcing that
I
prime
talked to
minister
my
King?
producer about that, actually.
Well, we need
the truth is
change. We need a change. We need a king.
I'll tell you. I'll tell you. Out of all the people that have served as prime minister, I'm gonna say things that are in favor and contrarian at the same time. Bibi has been the most strategic wartime prime minister that Israel has ever had, but in so many ways, Israeli leadership has fallen short over and over again, representing the true interests of the Jewish people. Vis-a-vis, we're talking about all these wars, but basic the economy of Israel, which is very, very strong, disfavor is starting to slowly shift, not quick enough, towards capitalism, and at the same time, Israeli leadership, with the vast technology that it has militarily, the unbelievable capability, doesn't use it. And this is where clearly I'm not on your side with these ideas. I believe that Israel should melt their enemies with their space lasers, but it doesn't choose to use it. It doesn't choose, like, we don't invade North Korea because they shoot missiles over Japan. Israel
Well, I
is
think
way
the
more
difference.
militarily capable than North Korea, and it's like always trying too hard to make peace with its neighbors or appease America, in my eyes.
And you know what? And now that I hear you say, because it's like if this was happening for Israel in isolation, then I might come out and I might have some peacenik, part of me that says I don't like war, which is true. But I'd be like, hey, Israel can handle its own business. But remember, Netanyahu came out and he said, I'd like to see the military aid and funding get cut too. And so, you kind of look at it from that angle and you wonder if there isn't some give and take where it's like Israel, maybe Netanyahu approaches Trump and he's like, all right, look, and I don't mean use a nuclear weapon. Maybe he wanted to use a nuclear weapon, but I mean, Netanyahu comes to Trump and he's like, look, just let me nuke our enemies. Just let me end it. Like, I'll end it all right now. We've got the technology, whatever. And Trump is like, no, don't do that. That's not good for us. That's not good for our foreign policy. We've got other allies and strategic relationships we got to consider. Please don't do that. And so maybe that's why Netanyahu comes out and says, you know what? We also need to cut this relationship too. And maybe he feels like there's a bit of they're holding us back from doing our thing. So, that's kind of an interesting thing to think about when I hear you say it like that. Because I'd rather say, hey, look, if I have no involvement in it and I don't have to, reap the benefits or the consequences, I'm hands in the air. Hey, I'm an American.
Israel's been trying very concertedly to give up American foreign aid. It's kind of like those drug dealing movies where you're like, I'm out the game, and then the American crime boss is like, you ain't getting out of this game, sonny. You stuck with us. And so, like, Israel wants to make military deals with other nations and wants to sell technology to other countries and do business with other countries. And unfortunately for Israel, because of the deal that was struck with American foreign aid, which 80% of that is required to go back to the United States, Israel feels like very stifled by the relationship, and America's using that to say, no, you are now required to take this, and you are required to do military business exclusively with the United States. So that's like a big challenge.
And that's what we call the military-industrial complex.
Yeah. that is like one of the key linchpins in the system is military industrial complex. The whole Middle Eastern struggle is caught up in like who's got what contracts and who's not allowed to do business with what people. That's a big thing, you know.
Hey, are you gonna get your house in Palestine back?
You mean my house in Israel, Gaza Strip, Israel?
In New Gaza.
So. As it looks now, it doesn't. As it looks now, like this is my big thing that pisses me off is that like, as it looks now, like this Board of Peace Gaza Strip thing, like it's so ambiguous. What is it gonna be? Like, are Jews gonna be allowed into the Gaza Strip again?
Do you think that's part of because
I was
it's
on
not
board with everything that went down in Gaza until this situation. And here's the big kicker, Owen, that nobody's talking about. Move forward into your your future conversations with this piece of knowledge. Let's say this Board of Peace gets established, right? And it's all handy, you know, the new United Nations is in Israel, very biblical prophecy-esque almost, if you will. But let's say there is an armed conflict again in Gaza. Does that mean that now Israel has to go to war with Turkey, Qatar, and anybody on this board? Is an act of war against Gaza now an act of war against all these other nations? And that's where it gets that's where it could trigger World War III like quickly.
Well, you saw when Trump issued the EO about Israel striking Qatar. So it sounds like that's kind of, you're thinking that might be in the same vein as kind of this like political hedge of protection.
Yeah, exactly. Like what happened? Because there's all these adversaries. Let's say they gather in Turkey. Is this new whatever goes down here? You know, first of all, it's like they've been like addicted to terrorism forever. And now all of a sudden they're going to get like $1 trillion from Qatar to rebuild this Trump Burj Khalifa in Gaza. And it's going to be owned by Turkey and like all these other states that have like literally pledged destruction against Israel. I believe in Israeli expansionism. I think Israel should take the Sinai Peninsula back, and the Gaza Strip shouldn't even be in question. These people don't have enough sovereignty. They don't have the ability to defend the land. So, like, you know, I'm all about these mass deportations of the Palestinians.
Especially now. But I think that, you know, I don't know if it's the perfect, you know, analogy to use in this situation, putting the cart before the horse. But it does kind of seem like that's kind of the direction here, is a cart before the horse. And it seems like to me, Trump's approach there is like, let's just do it and see what happens. And I think
he is strong-arming Bibi. Like Bibi's like, Qatar will not be on the board, and then like 2 days later, Qatar's on the board.
Well, you know, Trump uses leverage. He uses the NATO leverage on Europe. He uses foreign aid, military aid. He uses that as leverage on Israel. And again, that going back to the start of this, maybe that's why Netanyahu came out last month and said, okay, it's time to cut these ties. And Trump said, not so fast. So this is, you know, and Adam, I think that at the end of the day, like, this is the political corruption that you and I and most people our age are against. And so even if we have like a different flavor or a different approach or a different agenda, whatever, it's like, this is what we're all sick of. We're all sick of watching these gray beards, these geriatrics who have been stuck in the political process for decades. And we just sit here and we're like, dudes, it's either time to like finalize something here or just stop. Just hand over power to the younger generations. I mean, look at El Salvador right now. Probably I don't know if Bukele is the youngest president, but he's certainly amongst the youngest. And look at what he's done for his country. Just new blood, new approach, done with the old, in with the new. He's been a tremendous success story for El Salvador. And I just feel like that's such a tone. You know, that's such the time that we're in right now. It's like, hey, you guys have been in power for decades, and whatever it is you're trying to do, it's not working. Okay. Yeah. It's not working. Let's let the younger generations have a go at it. Maybe whether you're in Iran, whether you're in Israel, whether you're in America, it seems like it's time for the younger coming of age people to finally get their chance to fix things. Cause these guys, they just haven't done it, Adam.
I appreciate you looking to me and saying, when are you going to go become king of Israel and solve all these problems over there?
I'd support it. I'd support it.
Hey, I got the right blood for the job.
And well, you might have the only blood for the job.
I thought, tell you, speaking of king of Israel stuff,
I thought you were going to say something different when you said I'm the only one that can go in there. I thought you were going to go a different direction with that, but
the
okay.
The only one that could go in where?
The only one that has the right blood for the throne.
No, actually, the craziest thing about Ashkenazi Jews is 90% of us are direct descendants of King David. Like all these rumors, I saw Azalea Banks. I told my producer, I was like, let's fight with her. And he's like, dude, she's such a nobody. What are you doing? And she is a nobody, but all these like black Hebrew Israelites and all these stupid losers are like, no, Jews are, the Ashkenazi is the real goy. And I'm just like, suck it. You are so retarded. Like, you know, like I can't tell you how many trees I've seen, bloodline trees of like just Ashkenazi Jews. Like literally, it is widely known 90% of us are directly descended from the male side and the female side from King David on the Ashkenazi side. So it could be any of those people.
Has there been an Ashkenazi prime minister of Israel?
Bibi Netanyahu. Yeah, there's been a lot of Ashkenazi.
He's Ashkenazi. He's Polish.
Yeah, that's Ashkenazi. See,
no,
I'll tell you where it comes from. Ashkenaz was a kingdom that existed in the Rhineland prior to Germany. Like 500 years after the destruction of Ashkenaz did Germany even begin to arise. It's a really, really, really ancient nation. And this is like, you know, I just found out that Nick Fuentes brought me up again in the Joel Webbin 10-hour podcast that they did together. And he was talking about Adam King is talking about taking the Vatican, the treasures back from the Vatican. And I'm like, damn straight. But when we go into the Vatican and loot the place and take out all the writings and bring it back and show the world what the truth is, people will see their ancient lineages, the Europeans especially that were conquered by Rome. They'll see where they actually come from. And we call ourselves Ashkenazi Jews just the same way that I call myself an American Jew. I'm an American Jew because I reside in America and I'm Jewish. And in that generation, we resided in Ashkenaz and we were Jewish. And it stuck for thousands of years long after the kingdom of Ashkenaz fell. So that's the real origin story of the Ashkenazi Jews, by the way.
Well, when you talk about the Vatican, because this is one of the points where I think a lot of people kind of misinterpret what you're saying. And you know me, because I'm a confirmed Catholic. I can't say I'm a practicing Catholic, but I am a confirmed Catholic. I came up through the Catholic Church. And I understand, Catholics kind of, they approach the Vatican with a certain aura, a certain sense of protection. And, we have to keep this status, aside from, let's say, all the child molestation that perhaps takes place within the church. No, it's very well documented that the Vatican has kept so much of human anthropology secret. It's extremely well documented, especially like you said in Europe. And then the Catholic Church created this policy. And so archaeologists would go in and do these digs and they'd find something very imperative for human history anthropology. And then the Catholic Church would come in and say, we're building a church here. And then they would do it and they dig underneath it and they, basically take all the human history. So, that's just a fact. Again, I'm a confirmed Catholic. So it's not like somebody can say I'm, against the Catholic Church or anything here. I think that again, this is why I go back to the younger generations. We've all been lied to. We've all been deceived. The corrupt powers that be, we can break these shackles, but we have to first admit what they are. If we're going to improve the planet for our lineage, we have to be honest about the shackles that are holding us back. And whether you want to say the Catholic Church or this or that or whatever, because they're doing this now in Turkey, actually, by the way, bring up Turkey in Göbekli Tepe, I believe is what it's called. They have an ancient dig site right now that is going to completely destroy the concept of evolution, which quite frankly has already been destroyed. But it's like we have the anthropology that disproves evolution. We are a divine creation. Something, there is a divine creation aspect. And it's like, that's what they don't want us to know. That's the big secret they don't want us to know. They think you evolved from a squirrel turd or something. No, we are divine humans on this planet. There is something divine that created us. We could be alone in this whole thing, which is pretty spectacular if you think about that too. So this stuff is what happens. This is the larger anthropology thing. And it makes me wonder if, and this is where you start to, people start to get upset when you say these things, but I just speak my mind. It just makes you wonder, was religion always a dividing tactic? Was it something we were always supposed to sit here and get into our little enclaves and divide and not look at the greater mysteries, not look to the skies, not look under the earth? I just, these are the things I ask myself, Adam.
Talking about I always misplace the word, the Gobekli Tepe. I don't even know. But
yeah.
That guy who comes on your show, I would love to do content with him. He's so smart. That you know who I'm talking about, right?
Yeah, he's fantastic. His name is slipping me right now. I'll go pull it up. Jimmy Corsetti.
Jimmy Corsetti. That guy is so smart. I love watching.
Imagine Jimmy and Adam and Owen going into Göbekli Tepe.
Oh, I thought you were going to say the Vatican catacombs, but we could go to Göbekli Tepe.
I don't know. If we did that, if we went there, we might not get out, Adam. So
I wanted to tell you also, so you're right about that. Like there is, and this is one of the things that you and I are so simpatico on, is we both know with absolute certainty that there is some supernatural suppression of humanity, our origin story, our history, and most importantly, our technology. And something that I learned that I think you would be fascinated by is that the Vatican actually possesses a science department. And I have a friend who did he does all this like interfaith work with the bishops and all those people. And he was invited to this board. And I found that the Vatican also had a tremendous amount of involvement and investment into mRNA technologies and all sorts of technologies. But the real technologies, it's not just the histories that they're hiding from us, it's the technologies that they're hiding from us. There's also in the catacomb free energy and the Nikola Tesla inventions, and there's so much that the Vatican has kept from us. And that's really what it's about. People rising up to acquire our divine truth, which you said rightfully, we are divine creation. And there's a lot that accompanies us that has been hidden from us intentionally, like our origin story, like our history. We talk about the white people a lot in the dissident right. And one of the things I always say is, why are the white people so disconnected? They say, oh, they're French, they're German, they're British. Okay. You ask any white person, trace your lineage back. How far can you go? The best among them, 400, 500 years. And this is why I think that it's such this concept of whiteness is like, bro, we are so much more than colors. And I understand, like, the us versus them. If you could divide people to black and white, you got them in binary reaction mode, and they're much easier to control. But if people are armed with immense knowledge, culture, understanding, tradition, food, they're a lot more localized and difficult to control. And Rome knew this and submitted everybody to this globalism that happened thousands of years ago that we're all just kind of living in. And I want to say one more part on that, because I was talking, and will be big news for everybody. I told this to my producer today. We were talking about all these concepts. We talk about this in the green room all the time. But he was talking about the Crusades and how, the Catholics have all sorts of interesting Kabbalistic art, like where they clearly took, like, for instance, the Tree of Knowledge and imported it into a piece of art in their descriptive ways. And I told him, the Catholic Church has been so deeply involved in the secrets of the Kabbalah that the entire Crusades were only so that they could go to the Temple Mount in Jerusalem. They were looking for the writings of the Zohar that they wanted to take and harness the special spiritual magical powers that the Jews possess. I think a lot of what the anti-Semitism is really about on the highest levels, on the levels of like the immortals that are ruling us and the reptilians, is they want to suppress the last remnant of the ancient world that carries that tradition forward, which is the Jewish people.
Well, we know where that exists. It's in Florida. It's at Mar-a-Lago.
What is that, Mar-a-Lago?
Trump has all the holy scepters. He's got.
He does. Isn't that weird? He has a replica of the Ark of the Covenant.
Oh, is it a replica?
It's definitely a replica because the truth is the Ark of the Covenant, there was some major power inside of it that if people touched it, they died. So what was it really? What's inside?
And now it's like, how do we distinguish myth from reality? But when they keep it all secret from us, we never can.
And that's really, what I started my show about. And thanks to InfoWars, they gave me a platform when nobody else wanted to even host me. This was before Candace Owens made me so famous that got me back onto YouTube. I was kicked off of YouTube for COVID stuff. And then Candace Owens accusing me of killing Charlie Kirk as the #1 podcast. They finally gave me my channel back because of that. But
I didn't know you were in the discussion.
You didn't know this, man? She said that I was the main focalizer of the Hamptons party with Bill Ackman, Josh Hammer, and Seth Dillon. And I wasn't even invited. I didn't even know about it until Candace was saying it. She was going on for 2 weeks, and it's so funny. I was actually on a date with this chick, and like my phone starts blowing up, and she's like, Candace, my friends are all telling me, Candace just accused you of killing Charlie Kirk. And I'm like, what? You're kidding me. And sure enough, I'm on the date. I looked so cool on the date. But I mean, like I didn't even know about. And then the craziest thing, I told everybody, Milo Yiannopoulos, Elijah Schaffer, all these people, we had like serious conversations about it. And they went to her and they were like, yeah, Adam King clearly wasn't there. You got this one totally wrong. Why do you want to do this? She went on again last week with Myron Gaines on that episode and said it again for the 4th time she said it. After all these people have like accused her of not, but the more important discussion that always gets overshadowed by like anti-Semitism talks and everything is the stuff we were really talking about, these ancient mysteries that are concealed from the world. And that's why I started my podcast, to talk about that and to talk about New Schwabenland and Antarctica and all these things. I never get to talk about that stuff. That's the stuff that fuels me, and I never get to talk about it.
All right, here's the concept. Awesome Jew and elite Catholic trip DMT in the pyramids of Gaza.
I prefer mushrooms over DMT, to be honest with you, but
I'm too impatient.
That would be so scary to me. Honest to God, I see the pyramids as like such dark magic. I wouldn't want to do it there, but I'd do it in Jerusalem. We could go to Jerusalem and take.
You're trapping me. See, you're not helping you're not helping yourself now. You're trying to take me in there. I don't know what's going to come out of it. I can't do it.
I'll take you to Jerusalem. We do mushrooms there, and you'll be kissing the wall.
No.
It's funny. I do think though that there's some higher conversations to be had when it comes to the concealment of knowledge. And I don't know. Did you read my book, by the way? Did you get a copy?
I don't think so.
If not, I'm going to send you a copy. My chapter 14, I reveal such a secret of the ancient world that nobody even knows. It is only found in the deepest parts of the Kabbalah, and it's about inner Earth and entry points and all sorts of crazy stuff.
This is why we have to take Greenland. It's the entry point.
Greenland, I have no clue what's really there, but there is way more that meets the eye to Greenland than the actual storyline that's being told.
Let's not give him everything yet, Adam. Let's keep him. Let's keep him.
We're gonna have to save that for a future episode.
Yeah.
Owen Shroyer, Jimmy Corsetti, and Adam King go to Greenland.
We're going to melt the ice, and we're going to enter into the inner Earth, and we're going to discover the mysteries of everything. We're going to break it wide open. Free energy, 0-point energy, unlimited resources, unlimited power for a free humanity to prosper and expand.
That's what I'm about, man. Energy is free, and this whole petroleum world is fake, man. It's just systems of control.
Yep.
Well, I always appreciate you, Owen. You're a great sport. You do these debates. You come with a open mind. I know a lot of the internet calls you an anti-Semite. I don't think you're an anti-Semite. I think everybody has a right to question anything that they see in the media cycle and in the news. And also, Sometimes you say comments that are edgy, you know, but I mean, we live in the edgelords. So,
Only,
like, what do you expect?
sometimes. Only sometimes. All right.
But what do you expect? Yo, while I got you, I want to ask you about the thing with Sneeko. How did you have that thing planned beforehand, or was that like his after the whole, shitstorm thing? He came on your show. How did that whole thing manifest itself?
Well, there was nothing planned, but what exactly are you talking about?
Because didn't Sneeko come on your show like last week or something like that to talk about what took place in Miami?
Yeah.
Was that planned beforehand, or did he just come
No.
on? That was just all organic.
Once the whole thing blew up, I'd been in communication with him for about a couple months, and once the whole thing blew up, I said, "Hey, do you want to come on the show?" He came on the show. So yeah, that was all in the aftermath. There was no plan.
Okay. Yeah, that was. I'm sick of my timeline. You know, I appreciate the debate today because it's real content. People with real intellectual ideas coming together to spar it out, and that's real content to me. And like America's being dumbed down by mogging and methamphetamines, and it's like I'm just so sick of it. You know, everybody follow the 19-year-olds.
Hey, there's a time and place for everything. In fact, I'm checking. It's my mog time right now. It's
going mogging.
I'm late for my mog. I'm late for my nightly mog.
Nightly mogs and morning mogs. That's why you got to take methamphetamines if you're going to stay up all night mogging like that. I'm an old man. I've got to go to bed. So
don't do drugs, kids. Don't do drugs. Just mog the natural way.
Mog naturally. Well, Owen, thank you for being a good sport. We'll put some more debates for you on our show here. I love having you. You're a great friend, and
always good to catch up.
Come on anytime, debate anyone on your show. We always do it. How many have we've got like numbers, man? How many numbers we got here? We got so many consequential debates you and I have done. Maybe 5, 6, 7 of them.
I was going to say we're approaching the double digits. I don't know if we're quite there yet. I think we'll be double digits probably before the next presidential election for sure. But if people like this, I'm sure people would line up to debate you. Anybody wants to line up to debate me? It's all fun. It's all fair. And I always trust you to be a good moderator. I know that that's mutual. I've moderated debates with you too. So anytime we can fill that role, iron sharpens iron, we'll do it.
I will say at the end of this debate, because I don't think Shabbos Kestenbaum is getting his apology, but that clip was clipped short. It was clipped short.
You apologize for nothing. No. I'll tell you what. I'm gonna withhold because I had a response to that, but I'm gonna withhold it for now. Now's not the time. I'm gonna withhold my response to that, but I apologize for nothing. I have no apologies whatsoever for that.
I have an apology to absolutely no one. No, but
hey, man.
I did see the clip, and what he was saying was that because I guess someone broke a synagogue window, and the clip goes on for 30 more seconds, and but go back and look at it. I'm sure you saw the whole clip. So
like I said, I know my response to this, and I anticipated it would go there. So I already know what I'm going to say. I don't apologize. And no, I don't think it was taken out of context. I think it was actually perfectly put into context, and that's why people are freaking out. Now they can say that I clipped it out to serve a purpose. But again, I'll respond to that.
Did you make the clip or did somebody else clip it?
I'm gonna withhold. Let's see if this ever comes. Let's see if it ever comes back up, and we can go back down that road if we have to. But he's gone. So it is what it is. He's gone.
And while I got you here, what's going on with our basketball game? Did Stein ever show up, or did he?
No, you know what? I'm glad you reminded me. That I need to talk some shit on Stein. It's the only way I think I can drag him. I think it's the only way I can drag his ass to the court is just some public humiliation.
How can you call yourself primetime and not show up for a game?
I think he got scared. He got scared of the white mamba. He got scared of the gringo loco. And so, I don't blame him. It's a very intimidating thing. I'm like Larry Bird. I'm not white. I'm clear.
I really liked your idea, whites versus Jews. I think that would be like a home run basketball game. I'd be drafting a team of Maccabi Tel Aviv players. We're going to smoke you guys.
You were trying to claim that Stein was one of yours, but I'm not so sure.
I think he's one of yours. I think
it's Stein, like stone in German.
I don't know if he's. I think maybe his mom or his dad was Jewish, but his mom wasn't. I don't know. The debate on Stein's Jewishness will go down on the basketball court on which team he plays for.
We might have to make it more like a holy war, actually, and make it Jews versus Christians. I think that would be a little. That would be a little more. That would be a little more thrust.
We're still gonna smoke you, man, because I got some ballers and hoopers in my corner.
Well, God knows you Jews like to smoke stuff, so you know.
Brisket and weed. That's what we smoke.
Oh, you guys like that too?
Yeah, dude, we have more in common than we once thought. How about
that?
That's
what we'll do. We'll play basketball.
I thought the basketball game was a great idea for America, because there's so much heat. But we're all on the same side. Because if the Chinese Chinese come, it's gonna be us versus them. So we might as well find something to unify. And if it's basketball, let it be basketball.
I'm down.
And y'all know that I could play on the volleyball court. So volleyball and basketball, they go hand in hand, man. So, but I'll fly in for Austin, or I got a court here. I was thinking some of my friends over at Nike Air West might want that, but it might be too politically controversial for them, actually. But who would be on your Christian team? Your best bet is Adam Green. I mean, he's 6'7" and a total hooper, but I don't know if he can run anymore.
Well, I'm not sure. We've got a lot of depth to choose from. So I can't say I have a roster idea quite yet. But as long as I'm running point, as long as I'm running the one, I'm not really too afraid.
Oh God. So it's going to be me versus you on the one. I'm more out of shape, but I could take you if I was in shape. There's no question about that. So I'll beat you for a minute and a half, and then you'll beat me for 9 minutes, and then we'll call the first quarter.
We'll see what happens.
Owen, God bless you, man. Thank you for coming. Love you, big ups. And
tell Kestenbaum thanks for me, even though it was a bit of a ugly exit there. You tell him thanks.
I will. God bless. Thank you guys all for tuning in. You can find everyone on X because we don't go anywhere else anymore. And Owen will be back again all the time. And I'll see you online. Peace out, brother. All right, folks. Well, we had a great show today. This concluded our weekday segment. We got some other great shows coming up, great guests, which reminds me I got to call Tommy Robinson, who's supposed to be coming to LA, which would be a great in-studio. But I got to say, I really like my home studio, man. There's something so cozy about this. The new studio is off the hook, though, man. That is such a great place. But send me some DMs, folks, who you want to see next on the Adam King Show here at Awesome Jew, and I will be with you again soon. Next thing coming up, the red heifer is done, folks. May Chatas will be completed tomorrow, and that is really what's going down. So buckle your seats because redemption is coming. I am Adam King, your humble host. Thank you for giving me this platform. I love you all, and I will see you soon. Peace and shalom.